friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia and today I'm doing my June wrap-up. In June I was able to read 8 books and I'm going to talk about them in the order that I read them. So let's go ahead and get started. The first book that I read in June was Something to Talk About by Meryl Wilsner. In this book we follow Jo, who is a Hollywood powerhouse, and her assistant Emma. Jo decides to take Emma with her to an awards show, and when Jo is caught making Emma laugh on the red carpet, the tabloids decide that they are a couple. This book follows the fallout of that and how the only comment they're making about this relationship is no comment. They're refusing to talk to anybody, the drama that happens, but also so much more than just what follows like this incident. I was actually very impressed by how, as little plot points got resolved, the tension was still building with other things that were happening. When I first started this book, I wasn't really sure what to expect because I knew it was a romance and I knew it was a queer romance, and that's pretty much it. I did not expect it, however, to be as good as it was and to be like as engaging, but also as expansive as it is. The story doesn't just follow kind of like one plot line. It touches on a lot of things and it makes the story really engaging and really well developed. So I really enjoyed that. This book is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I loved it. I might have to pick up more romance, but I'm kind of hesitant because romance typically isn't my favorite, and this maybe was the exception. I don't know. I guess we'll see in the future if I do end up reading more romance. The next book I read in June was The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket. I'm working on a series of unfortunate events reread right now, and this is the 3rd book in that series. This series follows the Baudelaire children as they are orphaned at the beginning of the story, and then they go from guardian to guardian, trying to evade the evil Count Olaf, who's trying to steal their money. I'm enjoying my reread a lot less than I expected to. I forgot how formulaic these books are, and it does make sense why they are formulaic. These are kids' books. I first read them when I was a literal child and loved them then, so I was hoping to love them again as I'm rereading them. But so far, I'm just finding them like just fine. I did have an issue with this book because there is a character that is described as no one can tell if it's a man or a woman, and they call this character an it all of the time. This is just not okay. It makes me really uncomfortable because it is a person, not an inanimate object. So that was definitely very prevalent in this book, and it made me real uncomfy. That being said, though, I am planning to continue this series. I'm not enjoying my reread as much as I would have hoped to, but maybe the next couple books will make me enjoy it a little bit more. Maybe they're better. We'll see. The next book I read was Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. In this book, we follow Yadriel, who's a young trans boy who's trying to prove he's a true brujo. His Latinx family has ancient magic that allows the brujos to help spirits move on to the next life, and the brujas have the power to heal. In trying to prove he's a true brujo, Yadriel summons a spirit, but it turns out to be the wrong spirit. This book is so good. It's mysterious and fun and heavy all at the same time. Aiden Thomas's writing is just phenomenal. They do a great job of getting you as the reader engaged quickly, as well as continuing to raise the stakes just the perfect amount to keep you wanting to read more and keep your engagement level and your interest level growing and growing. The only issue I had with this book is the mystery wasn't quite as mysterious or difficult to figure out as I maybe would have liked, but that could just come down to the fact that this is a YA book. Next up, we have Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. In this book, we follow a bard as she runs away, joins a band of mercenaries, and their adventures as they kind of run away from what everyone else is running towards. After reading this book, I just don't think Nicholas Eames' writing is for me. There were some parts that I really liked, some parts that I really disliked. There was a little bit more romance than I was expecting, but to be fair, I maybe should have been expecting more, because one of the main things I hear about this book, and one of the main things I knew before going into this book, was that it featured a lesbian relationship. I didn't think overall the characters were well done, but I don't think he handled some of the plot points well, and there was a couple points where I personally thought his writing style felt a little lazy. This is a companion novel to another book called The Kings of the Wild, and I believe there is going to be a third one coming out in this world soon-ish. I did not enjoy this book enough to continue on with Nicholas Eames' writing, however, so I don't plan on picking any of those up. Next, I read Moonnstruck Volume 3, Troubled Waters by Grace Ellis and Shae Beagle. This graphic novel series is very fun. We follow these magical people in this town that's like a college town, and there's a lot of magic there and just kind of the adventures that happen there. We follow like a werewolf, and there's a centaur, and in this one there's a mermaid, and it's just a lot of fun. It is very cute and perfect for Pride Month because there are lots of queer characters. Next up, I read Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This is book 1 in the Wayward Children series. In this series, we follow children who go through doorways to other worlds, spend some time there, and then they are returned to our world. They don't want to come back. The other world feels like home to them, and this world no longer does. And this series follows these children who go to Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children. This, as I mentioned, was a reread for me, and I was a little bit nervous that I wasn't going to enjoy it as much as I did the first time, but I did. I think this novella is very well crafted. It is really enveloping and very engaging, and you are just in the story, and you kind of feel like you're in Eleanor West's home with these children. And I enjoyed the mystery element of this, and of course, since it was Pride Month, this book is perfect. We feature both an asexual character and a trans character. So, love this. I'm very excited to pick up the next one in the series as well. Next, I read A Year Without a Name by Cyrus Grace Dunham. This is a memoir about a trans person transitioning and kind of trying to figure out how to navigate that, and also trying to figure out who they are, really. I don't have too much to say about this because this is a piece of someone's life that they've chosen to share in a very open way. What I will say about this book is I think it is really relatable even if you're not trans, because Cyrus does build a lot of this story on things that are very human and very universally human, and then builds them up to relate to what it is like to be a trans person. Next, I read The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. This is a book of essays written in Yelp-style reviews. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoy John Green's writing, so I knew I was going to enjoy it. I also listened to the podcast this was based on before the book came out, and I enjoyed the podcast. So it was no surprise to me that I enjoyed this book. Since it is essays, it is kind of a mixed bag as to what the essays are about, and there's not really an overarching storyline, but John Green has said that this is also kind of sequenced in a way. The essays are organized in a way that it feels kind of like a memoir. There are a couple of these essays that really touched me and made me cry, and a couple that I just wasn't as interested in, but overall I did really enjoy this book. That is everything I've finished so far in June. I do have a couple days left as of recording this, so I'm hoping to finish The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. In this, we follow a woman as she joins a space tunneling crew and ends up getting more than she bargained for. We are meeting different alien species and being exposed to different alien cultures, and this book feels very topical for what is happening right now in the world as I am reading and interpreting it. But as it is discussing kind of more heavy things, it also feels very light. And I think that is a huge credit to Becky Chambers' writing, as she can discuss these heavier topics without making the book feel heavy and depressing. I'm loving this book. I have already ordered the second one so that as soon as it comes, I can start reading the second one. This book is just so good. It is very good. There's aliens. It's queer. What else do you need in a sci-fi?
Voiceover Alicia here, just popping in to let you know that I was able to finish The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I loved it. And then I was also able to finish Cells at Work Volume 2, which I also loved.
That is everything I have read and hope to finish before the end of June. But before I go, I just quickly wanted to mention 2 books that I mentioned in my June TBR that I'm not actually going to read. The first one being Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. I again mentioned this in my reading vlog that I most recently did. I picked this book up after I finished Cemetery Boys and I was really excited to read it. However, it is a Peter Pan retelling and I just couldn't get into it. I read about 100 pages and just was not enjoying it and didn't want to keep reading it, so I DNF'd it and unfortunately will not be able to finish it. I'm very sad because I love Aiden Thomas's writing. I just don't like retellings very much. So, not going to finish this one. And also, just quickly wanted to mention The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I was actually about to start this book when I found out some of the inspiration that TJ Klune took for this book from the 60s Scoop, which was a cultural genocide that happened in Canada, and that's where he drew the inspiration for this book. If you want to read more about it, definitely go click at the links. I'm going to link to a very long Reddit post about it, but I decided I'm not going to read it, and you can Google more and read in the link below if you want to find out more about why. That was everything I was able to read in June. As I mentioned, I've finished 8 books, but I'm hoping to sneak in a 9th before June ends. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!